The kids' table. That's where they put me. At a Michelin-starred restaurant in downtown San Francisco, surrounded by adults dressed in cocktail attire and designer suits, my sister's family seated me at a table with 5 children under the age of 10, not because there wasn't room at the main table. There was plenty of room. They'd reserved the entire private dining room, a space that could comfortably seat 24 adults. But apparently, I didn't qualify as an adult worth sitting with. I'm Lily Martinez, I'm 34 years old, and I'm a successful patent attorney at Morrison & Associates, one of the top intellectual property firms in San Francisco, making $240,000 a year. I have a law degree from Stanford, where I graduated in the top 10% of my class. I have a condo in Pacific Heights that I bought myself 3 years ago for $890,000, which is now worth over $1 million. I have a reputation in my field as one of the sharpest IP litigators on the West Coast. I've argued cases worth millions of dollars. I've negotiated deals that changed companies' trajectories. I've been featured in legal journals. I've spoken at conferences. I've built a career on being underestimated and then proving everyone wrong. But to my family, specifically to my older sister Rebecca and her husband Kyle, I'm just Lily. Quiet, boring, unmarried, childless Lily. The sister who doesn't fit their idea of success because I don't have a husband and kids. The sister who's tolerated at family events but never quite welcomed. The sister who, apparently, belongs at the kids' table. Let me set the scene properly, because the details matter. It was Saturday, November 18th, at Atelier Crayons, one of the most exclusive restaurants in San Francisco. 3 Michelin stars. Chef Dominique Crayons' flagship restaurant. Reservations booked 6 months in advance. A tasting menu that costs $385 per person before wine pairings, which add another $195 if you go for the full pairing. The kind of place where every dish is a work of art, where the service is impeccable, where you go for milestone celebrations. And this was supposed to be a milestone. My parents' 40th wedding anniversary. 4 decades of marriage. A significant achievement that deserved to be celebrated properly. Rebecca had sent a group text 6 weeks earlier, on October 2nd at 3:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was in a meeting with a client when my phone buzzed. I'd glanced at it quickly, saw it was from Rebecca, and read it during a break. Planning a special anniversary dinner for Mom and Dad at Atelier Crayons. Saturday, November 18th, 7 p.m. Adults only, obviously, but we're doing something really special for this occasion. This is a big milestone and I want it to be perfect. RSVP by October 15th so I can finalize the reservation. Looking forward to celebrating with everyone. I RSVP'd immediately. Texted back, I'm in. This sounds wonderful. Mom and Dad will love it. Let me know if you need help with anything. Rebecca had responded with a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. No follow-up. No coordination. No mention of who was invited, what the plan was, nothing. Just that thumbs up. I'd blocked off my calendar immediately. I'd been excited about this. Despite everything, despite the way my family sometimes made me feel, I loved my parents. They'd worked hard their entire lives. My father had been a high school teacher for 35 years. My mother had been a nurse. They'd raised 3 kids on modest incomes, helped us all through college, supported our dreams. They deserved a beautiful celebration. So I'd started planning what I'd wear. I'd gone shopping 2 weeks before the dinner, spent an entire Saturday afternoon trying on dresses at Nordstrom and Neiman Marcus. Finally found the perfect one at a boutique in Union Square, a beautiful navy silk dress with a subtle shimmer, elegant but not overdone, sophisticated but not stuffy. It cost me $600, which was more than I usually spent on a single piece of clothing. But this was a special occasion. My parents' 40th anniversary. Worth it. I'd also scheduled a hair appointment for Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. at my usual salon. Blowout and styling. $85 plus tip. I'd bought new shoes, navy pumps with a reasonable heel. Another $200. New clutch to match. $150. I'd even bought a special anniversary card for my parents. One of those expensive ones from a stationery store with hand-painted details. $18. Altogether, I'd invested over $1,000 in preparing for this dinner. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because this mattered to me. Then, 2 days before the dinner, on Thursday, November 16th at 2:23 p.m., I got a text from Rebecca. I was at my desk reviewing a patent application when my phone buzzed. Hey Lily, slight change of plans. Kyle's sister Amanda is bringing her kids because her babysitter canceled last minute. I know I said adults only, but family is family, right? The restaurant can't add more seats at the main table, but they're putting a small table nearby for the kids. Hope that's okay. See you Saturday. I'd stared at that text for a moment. Kids at Atelier Crayons? At a tasting menu dinner? That seemed unusual. The restaurant wasn't exactly child-friendly. But Amanda was Kyle's sister, and if her childcare fell through, I understood the bind. I'd texted back, "Of course, that's fine. Family is important. Looking forward to Saturday." Rebecca had sent back a smiley face emoji, and I'd thought nothing more of it. I should have thought more of it. Saturday evening arrived. November 18th. I'd followed my plan exactly. Hair appointment at 4 p.m., finished by 5:15. Home by 5:30. Dressed carefully, did my makeup with extra attention to detail. I checked myself in the mirror and felt good. Confidence. Ready to celebrate with my parents. I'd left my condo at 6:30 p.m., allowing plenty of time for the drive and parking. Atelier Crayons was in the Cow Hollow neighborhood, about a 15-minute drive from Pacific Heights in light traffic. I arrived at 6:55 p.m., exactly 5 minutes early like I always tried to be. Professional habit. Being early showed respect for other people's time. The restaurant's exterior was understated and elegant, the kind of place that didn't need to announce itself. If you knew, you knew. I walked in at exactly 6:55. The interior was stunning, minimalist but warm, soft lighting, blonde wood, white walls with subtle art. Everything is carefully curated. The hostess stand was simple but elegant, staffed by a young woman in her 20s, wearing all black with perfect posture. "Good evening. Welcome to Atelier Crayons," she said with a genuine smile. "Hi, I'm here for the Martinez party. 7 p.m. reservation." "Of course, Miss Martinez. Right this way." She grabbed a menu, led me through the main dining room. I caught glimpses of other diners, all dressed beautifully, speaking in hushed tones. The whole restaurant had this quiet elegance, this sense that you were somewhere special. We walked to the back of the restaurant, through a doorway, down a short hallway, and into a private dining room. The room was beautiful, maybe 400 square feet, intimate but not cramped. Floor-to-ceiling windows along one wall overlooking the city. Lights just starting to twinkle as evening settled in. A long table set for what looked like 20 people, pristine white linens, gleaming silverware, fresh flowers in low arrangements down the center, expensive water glasses, wine glasses already set out. Everything is perfect. Everything exactly what you'd expect for a milestone celebration. Rebecca was already there with Kyle and their 3 children, Sophie, 7, Max, 5, and Emma, 3. They were the only ones who'd arrived so far. The kids were dressed nicely, I'd give them that. Sophie in a velvet dress, the boys in little button-up shirts and khakis. They were being relatively quiet, which was good. "Lily," Rebecca said when she saw me, standing up from the table where she'd been sitting. She came over, gave me a quick hug. The kind of hug that's more about the gesture than actual affection. Air kiss near my cheek, barely touching. "You look nice," she said, pulling back and giving me a once-over. "Thanks, you too." And she did. Rebecca always looked put together. She was 37, 3 years older than me, and she had that polished aesthetic of someone whose entire life was curated for Instagram. Her hair was a perfect balayage, professionally colored every 6 weeks at a salon that charged $400 per session. Her dress was cream-colored and probably designer, though I didn't recognize the brand. Her jewelry was subtle but expensive, a delicate gold necklace that I knew Kyle had bought her for their anniversary last year because she'd posted about it extensively. Everything about her was coordinated, intentional, perfect. "So," she said, and her tone shifted slightly. Not quite apologetic, but something adjacent to it. Careful. Like she was about to say something she knew I wouldn't like but had already decided was happening. "We have a bit of a situation." I felt my stomach drop slightly. "What's that?" "The kids' table. It turns out there are more kids than we originally thought. Kyle's sister Amanda is bringing her 3 kids, which I knew, but Kyle's parents are also bringing their grandkids from Kyle's brother's family, because apparently those kids are visiting for the weekend and they didn't have anywhere else to put them. So instead of 3 kids, we have 9. I did quick math. 9 kids. That's a lot of kids for a formal restaurant, I said carefully. I know. It's not ideal. But what can we do? They're family. I nodded, not sure where this was going. "So we've set up the kids' table over there." She gestured to the far corner of the room, where I now noticed a smaller round table, maybe 4 feet in diameter, with 6 small chairs around it. Child-sized chairs, and we're going to need an adult to sit with them. To supervise, you know, make sure they're not too loud, help them with their food, that kind of thing. The realization hit me slowly. Then all at once, "You want me to sit at the kids' table? Just for tonight. Just for this dinner. Rebecca, I'm not a babysitter. I'm a guest at this dinner. I'm here to celebrate Mom and Dad's anniversary. I know you are, and you will be. You'll just be sitting at a different table. It's still the same room. You'll still hear everything. It's not a big deal." "If it's not a big deal, why don't you sit there?" Her expression shifted, slight annoyance crossing her features. "Lily, come on. Don't be difficult about this." "I'm not being difficult. I'm asking a reasonable question. If supervising the kids' table isn't a big deal, why can't you do it? Or Kyle?" "Because I organized this entire dinner. I've been planning this for weeks. I've coordinated everyone's schedules, made sure the restaurant had everything they needed, picked out the menu, arranged for special wines. This is my event. I need to be at the main table as the host." "But you didn't make the reservation," I said quietly. She blinked. "What?" "You didn't make the reservation." "I did." There was a pause, a beat of silence where I could see her processing, trying to figure out what I meant. "What are you talking about?" "When you announced you were planning this dinner, I called the restaurant to see if I could help or contribute. They told me there was no reservation under your name, so I made one 6 weeks ago. I booked the private room. I paid the deposit." Her face went pale, then flushed red, then pale again. "You made the reservation?" "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" "I did tell you. I texted you that day and said I'd called the restaurant and there was no reservation, and you said you'd forgotten to confirm it and asked if I could handle it. So I did. I told you I'd take care of it as my gift to Mom and Dad." I could see her trying to remember the conversation, trying to figure out if what I was saying was true. It was true. I had the text messages saved. I saved everything. "Okay," she said slowly. "So you made the reservation. That was generous of you. Thank you. But that doesn't change the situation right now. We still need someone to sit with the kids, and you're the obvious choice." "Why am I the obvious choice?" "Because everyone else either has their own kids here or they're older, and we can't ask them to chase around children. You're young, you're capable, and you don't have kids of your own to worry about. So, because I'm single and childless, my time and experience at this dinner matter less. That's not what I'm saying." "That's exactly what you're saying." Kyle walked over, clearly having heard at least part of the conversation. Kyle was 39, 2 years older than Rebecca, and he'd been her husband for 10 years. He worked as a director of engineering at a tech startup that had gone public 18 months ago, making him and Rebecca suddenly very wealthy. Paper wealth, at least. Their stock options had vested, their net worth had jumped from comfortable to multi-millions, and it had changed them. Or maybe it had just revealed who they'd always been. Kyle had always been dismissive of me, but it had gotten worse since their money situation improved. He looked at me now with that expression he always had, that slight condescension, like I was a child who needed to be managed. "Is there a problem?" he asked Rebecca, but he was looking at me. "Lily doesn't want to sit at the kids' table," Rebecca said, her tone making it clear she thought I was being unreasonable. "Lily, be reasonable," Kyle said, exactly as I'd expected. "Someone needs to watch the kids. You're single. You don't have your own children to manage. It makes sense for you to do it. What makes sense is treating me like an adult guest, not free childcare," I said, keeping my voice level. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," Kyle said. "It's just where you sit. You're still at the dinner. If it's just where I sit and not a big deal, then you sit there." His jaw tightened. "I'm not sitting at the kids' table." "Why not?" "Because I'm not a babysitter. I'm a guest. So am I. It's different." "How?" He didn't answer. Just looked at Rebecca like I was being impossible. "You know what?" Rebecca said, her voice getting sharp in that way it did when she was about to dig in. "Fine. Sit wherever you want. But don't come crying to me when dinner is chaos because the kids are running around unsupervised and disturbing everyone. Don't complain when Mom and Dad's special night is ruined because children are being loud and disruptive. This dinner is supposed to be perfect, and you're jeopardizing that because you're being precious about where you sit." She walked away. Kyle followed her, and I stood there in that beautiful private dining room, feeling that familiar sensation of being gaslit, of being made to feel like I was the problem for having boundaries. of being told my very reasonable objection to being treated as less than was actually me being difficult, dramatic, precious. I looked around the room. The main table was set beautifully. Place cards at each setting. I walked over, curious to see where everyone was sitting. At the head of the table, Mom and Dad. That made sense. To my father's right, Rebecca. To my mother's left, Kyle. Next to Rebecca, Kyle's mother. Next to Kyle, Rebecca's eldest daughter, Sophie. Next to Kyle's mother, Kyle's father. And so on down the table. 12 place settings. 12 adults. Kyle's parents. Kyle's sister Amanda and her husband. My brother Marcus and his wife Jen. All of them at the main table. With assigned seats, with beautiful place cards in calligraphy. And I noticed something else. There was a place card for me. At the main table, between my brother Marcus and Kyle's sister Amanda. A place had been set for me. Rebecca had made a place card for me, and then she decided I should sit at the kids' table instead. This wasn't about a shortage of space. This wasn't about figuring out last-minute logistics. This was a choice. A deliberate choice to move me from the adult table to the children's table, to demote me. To send a message about my value relative to everyone else here. Other guests started arriving. My parents came in at 7:05, fashionably late, both dressed beautifully. My mother in a silver cocktail dress, my father in a navy suit. They looked happy, excited. This was their night. My brother Marcus arrived with his wife Jen. Marcus was 31, 3 years younger than me, worked in tech sales. Jen was a pediatric nurse. They'd been married for 4 years, no kids yet. They were good people. We got along well. Kyle's parents arrived, distinguished-looking couple in their late 60s. I'd never met them before, despite Rebecca having been married to Kyle for 10 years. We'd never been included in the same events, I guess. Kyle's sister Amanda arrived with her husband Dan and their 3 children, ages 4, 6, and 9. The kids were already wound up, running around the private room, touching everything. Amanda looked frazzled, kept trying to corral them with limited success. "I'm so sorry," she said to Rebecca. "They're excited. They've never been to a place this fancy." "It's fine," Rebecca said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "They can sit at their table." The hostess appeared again. "Is everyone here? Should we go ahead and seat the party?" "Yes," Rebecca said. "Everyone's here." She started directing people to their seats at the main table. Guided my parents to the head, showed Kyle's parents to their spots, showed Marcus and Jen to theirs. The hostess approached me with a smile. "Miss Martinez, right? Your seat is right over here." She started to gesture toward the main table, toward the place card with my name. "Actually," Rebecca interrupted, "Lily is sitting at the other table, with the children." The hostess looked confused. "Oh, I apologize, I thought." "It's fine," Rebecca said firmly. "She's supervising the kids' table." The hostess looked at me, then at the kids' table, then back at me. I could see the question in her eyes. Could see her trying to figure out what was happening. Why an adult woman in a cocktail dress being seated with children? "Of course," she said professionally. "Right this way, Miss Martinez." She led me to the kids' table. The small round table in the far corner of the room. 6 small chairs, the kind designed for children. One empty chair had been brought over, adult-sized, squeezed in among the children's chairs. Amanda's 3 kids were already sitting there. Rebecca's 3 kids came over, directed by their mother. "You'll sit with Aunt Lily. She's going to help you with dinner." 6 children. Ages 3 through 9, all looking at me with varying degrees of curiosity and indifference. I sat down in that adult chair at the children's table, and I felt the full weight of how my family saw me. The dinner began. At the main table, about 15 feet away from us, adults were chatting, laughing, greeting each other. The sommelier appeared, presented a bottle of champagne to the table, explained the vintage, the notes, the pairings, poured small tastes for Rebecca and Kyle to approve. They swirled, sniffed, tasted, nodded, approved. The sommelier poured champagne for everyone at the main table. Crystal flutes filled with golden bubbles. At my table, the kids got water, in plastic cups, because despite this being a Michelin star restaurant, they'd apparently brought plastic cups for the children. I got water too, in a regular water glass. No champagne, no sommelier asking my preference. The first course arrived at the main table. A server explained the dish in detail. Something about sea urchin and caviar and delicate preparations. I couldn't hear all of it from where I sat. Everyone at the main table leaned in, examined their plates, took photos, admired the artistry. At the kids' table, the first course arrived on modified plates. Simpler preparations, less intimidating for children. "What is this?" Rebecca's 5-year-old son Max asked, poking at his plate with a fork. "It looks weird." "It's special food," I said. "Just try it." "I don't want to try it. Just one bite." "No." He pushed his plate away. It slid across the table, nearly knocked into Emma, Rebecca's 3-year-old daughter. I caught it just in time. At the main table, I could hear laughter. Could hear my mother's delighted voice saying something about how beautiful everything was. At my table, Amanda's 4-year-old daughter started crying. "I want different food. I don't like this." "This is what they have," I said gently. "I don't like it." Her voice rose. Heads turned from the main table. Rebecca shot me a look. A clear look that said, "Handle this. Control the children. Make them quiet." I spent the next 15 minutes trying to calm down a 4-year-old having a tantrum about food, while the adults at the main table enjoyed their first course in peace. By the time the tantrum subsided, everyone at the main table had finished their first course. Servers cleared plates. The second course was coming. "Miss Martinez?" A server approached my table quietly. "Would you still like the first course, or should we move you to the second course with everyone else?" I looked at my table, at the kids still picking at their modified first course, at the chaos. "Just bring me the second course," I said. "It's fine." The second course arrived at the main table. More explanations from the servers, more oohs and ahs, more photos, more appreciation of the chef's artistry. At my table, the second course arrived. Some kind of scallop preparation, beautiful and delicate. Max immediately knocked his fork off the table. It clattered on the hardwood floor. "I need a new fork." "I'll get you one." I flagged down a server. "Requested a new fork." It arrived. Max took it, used it for approximately 30 seconds, then knocked it off the table again. "I need another fork. Can you try to hold on to this one?" I didn't mean to drop it. "I know. Just be more careful. Fork number 3. Amanda's 6-year-old son raised his hand like he was in school. "I need to go to the bathroom." "Okay, do you need help?" "I need someone to go with me." "All right." I stood up, leaving my scallops untouched. Took the 6-year-old out of the private room, through the restaurant to the bathrooms, waited outside while he went, waited for him to wash his hands, which he did with excessive amounts of soap, getting water all over the counter. I walked him back to the private room. When I returned, my scallops were cold. The butter had congealed. The delicate preparation was ruined. I ate them anyway. What else was I going to do? The dinner continued like this, course after course. Each one at the main table was presented with ceremony, with explanation, with wine pairings. Each one was photographed, discussed, savored. At my table, each course was interrupted. By spills, by requests for different food, by arguments between children, by bathroom trips, by increasingly restless kids who were bored and didn't understand why they had to sit still for so long. By the 4th course, I'd barely tasted any of my food. I was working, constantly managing 6 children, cutting food for the younger ones, reminding them to use inside voices, wiping spills, preventing fights, requesting replacement utensils, taking bathroom trips. At one point, Amanda's 4-year-old tried to run out of the private room. I had to catch her, bring her back, calm her down while she screamed that she wanted to go home. Rebecca shot me another look. Not sympathetic, not apologetic, just annoyed that the kids were being disruptive. Like it was my job to make them silent and invisible. Like I was failing at the task she'd assigned me. Around the 5th course, Kyle's father stood up at the main table, tapped his wine glass with a knife. The room quieted. Even the kids stopped fidgeting for a moment, sensing something important was happening. "I'd like to propose a toast," he said in a deep, authoritative voice. Everyone at the main table raised their glasses. To John and Patricia Martinez, 40 years of marriage is a remarkable achievement in this day and age. You've built a beautiful family together, raised 3 wonderful children, who've all grown into successful adults, created a legacy of love, commitment, and family values. Rebecca, thank you for organizing this incredible evening. Kyle, thank you for being such a wonderful addition to the Martinez family. To everyone here, thank you for celebrating this milestone with us. And to John and Patricia, may you have many more years of happiness together. To 40 years. 40 years! Everyone echoed, clinking glasses. At the main table, people were standing, clinking glasses with each other, smiling, taking photos of the moment. At my table, the kids were already getting restless again. Emma had started whining. Max was kicking the table leg repeatedly. I'd heard the toast from my corner. I'd heard every word about the beautiful family, the wonderful children, the successful adults, but I hadn't been part of it. I wasn't standing with my glass raised. I wasn't clinking glasses with anyone. I was sitting at a table with 6 children under the age of 10, managing their behavior while everyone else celebrated, and something inside me shifted. A decision forming. A line being crossed that I couldn't cross. I excused myself. Stood up from the kids' table. I need to use the restroom, I announced to no one in particular. I walked out of the private room, through the main restaurant, past elegant diners enjoying their meals, out the front door into the cool November evening. And I kept walking. Didn't stop. Didn't go to the bathroom. I kept walking down the street, away from the restaurant. I pulled out my phone and opened my Uber app. Requested a ride. While I waited, I stood on the corner in my $600 navy dress and my $200 shoes. And I opened my email app. Scrolled back to October, found the confirmation email from Atelier Crayons, the one I'd received after booking the private room. The one Rebecca didn't know existed. The one I'd kept quiet about because I'd wanted this to be a gift for my parents, not something I got credit for. Reservation confirmation. Atelier Crayons. Private dining room. Saturday, November 18th, 7 p.m., party of 24. Room rental, $2,500. Food and beverage, minimum, $10,000. Deposit paid, 326E789's reservation name Lily Martinez. Credit card on file, Lily Martinez. Contact number, my cell phone. Everything, every detail, all under my name, because I'd made this reservation. I'd paid the deposit. I'd coordinated with the restaurant. I'd made sure the private room was available. I'd confirmed the details. I'd done all of it. While Rebecca had announced she was planning the dinner, and then did nothing until I'd called to check, and discovered there was no reservation. My Uber arrived. A black Toyota Camry, driver named Luis with 4.9 stars. I got in. Where to? He asked. I almost said my address, almost went home, but then I had a different idea. Actually, can you wait here for just a few minutes? I need to go back inside briefly. Sure, no problem. Meter's running, though. That's fine. I got out of the car, walked back into Atelier Crayons. The hostess looked surprised to see me. Miss Martinez, is everything all right? Everything's fine. I just need to speak with the manager for a moment. Is Claire available? Claire was the restaurant manager. I'd spoken with her multiple times while arranging this reservation. She'd been professional, helpful, thorough. Of course, let me get her for you. The hostess disappeared into the back. Returned a minute later with Claire, a polished woman in her early 50s wearing a black suit and an efficient expression. Miss Martinez, Claire said with a professional smile. How can I help you? Is there a problem with the service? No, the service has been excellent as always. But there's been a misunderstanding with my party, and I need your help clarifying something. Of course. What kind of misunderstanding? The people in my party don't seem to realize that I'm the one who made this reservation. They think someone else organized this dinner. I'd like you to come with me to the private room and verify the reservation details. She looked confused, but maintained her professional demeanor. You'd like me to verify the reservation with your party? Yes. Specifically, I'd like you to tell them whose name the reservation is under and who paid the deposit. I can certainly do that. Is there a reason this needs to be clarified now? Yes, I said simply. There is. She studied my face for a moment. Whatever she saw there made her nod. All right, let me grab my tablet and I'll come with you. She disappeared for a moment, returned with a tablet, and followed me through the restaurant toward the private dining room. As we walked, my heart was pounding. I knew what I was about to do. I knew it would be dramatic. I knew it would be uncomfortable. I knew it would change things permanently, but I also knew I was done. Done accepting this treatment, done staying quiet, done letting my family treat me like I was less important, less valuable, less worthy of respect. We reached the private dining room. Everyone was still seated between courses. Conversation flowing, laughter. My mother looked happy. My father was smiling. Rebecca was in her element, playing host, making sure everyone was having a good time. The kids at my table were getting increasingly restless, no one supervising them now that I'd left. I walked in with Claire behind me. Rebecca saw me first. Her expression shifted from surprise to irritation. "Lily, where did you go? The kids have been—" "Everyone," I said, my voice clear and firm, cutting through the conversation. "Can I have your attention for a moment?" The room quieted. All eyes turned to me. My father looked concerned. My mother was confused. Rebecca looked alarmed. Kyle looked annoyed. "I apologize for interrupting," I said. "But there's something I need to clarify. Something important that I think everyone should know." "Lily," Rebecca said, standing up, "this really isn't the time." "Actually, it's exactly the time. Because this dinner, this beautiful celebration, is happening right now, and I think it's important that everyone understands how it came to be." I turned to Claire. "Claire, you're the manager here at Atelier Crayons. You have the reservation information. Can you please tell everyone in this room whose name this reservation is under?" Claire looked at her tablet. Looked at the room. "Look at me," I nodded. "Certainly," she said professionally. "This reservation for the private dining room was made on October 2nd at 4:17 p.m. The reservation is under the name Lily Martinez. The contact information on file is for Lily Martinez. The credit card on file for payment is in the name of Lily Martinez. The deposit of $3,267.89 was charged to Lily Martinez's credit card on October 2nd. Silence. Complete. Absolute. Silence. You could have heard a pin drop. Every person in that room was staring. At me, at Claire, at the tablet in her hands. Rebecca's face had gone completely white. Then red. Then white again. "What?" my mother said softly. "I made this reservation," I said, my voice steady. 6 weeks ago, when Rebecca announced she was planning this dinner, I called the restaurant to see if I could contribute or help coordinate. They told me there was no reservation under Rebecca's name, so I made one myself. I booked this private room. I paid the deposit. I coordinated all the details with the restaurant. "Rebecca?" my father said, looking at his older daughter. Rebecca stammered, looking between me and our parents and everyone else in the room. "I was going to make the reservation. I just got busy with the kids and—" "You didn't make any reservation," I said. "You announced you were planning this dinner. You told everyone you were organizing this celebration. You coordinated schedules and planned details. But you never actually booked the venue." "I did, 6 weeks ago. And I never mentioned it because I thought we were family and it didn't matter who got credit. I thought what mattered was that Mom and Dad had a beautiful evening." "So that's why you're making a scene now," Kyle said, standing up defensive. "To take credit?" "No," I said, looking directly at him. "I'm clarifying this now because the person who paid $3,267.89 for this room, who made this entire evening possible, was just told she belongs at the kids' table." The room went even quieter, if that was possible. "What?" my mother said again. "They seated me at the kids' table," I said, gesturing to the small table in the corner where 6 children sat, now completely silent, sensing the drama. "Rebecca told me someone needed to supervise the children, and I was the obvious choice because I'm single and don't have kids. So despite being a 34-year-old woman, despite being a successful attorney, despite being the person who made this reservation, I was told to sit at the kids' table and supervise children instead of celebrating my parents with the rest of the adults." My mother's hand went to her mouth. My father looked at Rebecca with an expression I'd never seen before. Disappointment. Real disappointment. "Rebecca," he said, "tell me that's not true." "Dad, it's not like that," Rebecca said quickly. "We had all these kids and someone needed to watch them, and Lily was the logical choice because I don't have a husband or children, so my presence at this dinner mattered less." I finished for her. "Because my time is less valuable? Because I can be treated like free childcare at an event I paid for?" "That's not what I meant," Rebecca said, but her voice was weak. "Then what did you mean?" I asked. She didn't have an answer. Kyle stepped forward. "This is ridiculous. You're making a huge deal out of where you were sitting." "Am I?" I looked at him directly. "Kyle, let me ask you something. If someone invited you to a formal dinner, a dinner at a Michelin-star restaurant that cost thousands of dollars, and then told you to sit at the kids' table and supervise other people's children instead of enjoying the meal, would you think that was respectful treatment?" He opened his mouth, closed it, said nothing. "That's what I thought," I said. I turned to address the whole room. "Let me be very clear about something. I'm not angry about paying for this dinner. I wanted to do this for my parents. This is their 40th anniversary, and they deserve to be celebrated. What I'm angry about is being treated like I don't matter. Like my presence here is less valuable because I don't have a husband and children. Like I can be dismissed and relegated to the corner and expected to smile and accept it. Lily? My mother said, standing up now, coming toward me. Honey, we didn't know. We didn't realize you'd made the reservation. Would it have mattered? I asked. If you'd known, would you have treated me differently? Or would I still have been the convenient choice to stick at the kids' table? She didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. I've spent this entire dinner supervising 6 children, I continued. I've barely tasted any of the food. I've missed every course explanation, every toast, every moment of the celebration, because I've been managing other people's children, taking them to the bathroom, preventing tantrums, cleaning up spills, while all of you enjoyed this beautiful meal in peace, and not one person, not one of you, thought to check on me or ask if I was okay or thank me for the service I was providing. You should have said something, Rebecca said. I did. I told you I didn't want to sit at the kids' table. I asked why I was the obvious choice, and I was told I was being difficult and making a scene. I was told to be reasonable. I was told it wasn't a big deal, just where I was sitting. So you're making this dramatic announcement because you're bitter about where you sat? Kyle said. I'm making this announcement because I'm done accepting treatment that diminishes me. I'm done staying quiet about being disrespected. I'm done letting my family treat me like I'm less important than everyone else. I looked at my parents. Mom, Dad, I love you. I'm so happy you've had 40 years together. You deserve every bit of happiness. But I can't stay at this dinner. I can't sit at the kids' table at an event I paid for and pretend that's okay. I can't be treated like help at my own parents' anniversary celebration. Lily, please, my mother said, tears forming. Don't leave. We can fix this. How? By moving me to the main table now? After I've already spent 2 hours at the kids' table? After everyone has already made it clear where they think I belong? We didn't mean it that way, my father said. Maybe not. But that's how it happened, and I'm not going to stay somewhere I'm not respected. I turned to Claire, who'd been standing there silently through all of this, professional as ever. Claire, the bill for tonight is already covered by the deposit I paid. There shouldn't be any additional charges beyond the food and wine, which is all within the minimum. If there are any overages, please charge my card on file. Of course, Miss Martinez, she said. Thank you for your business. I'm sorry your evening was disrupted. You have nothing to apologize for. Your service has been impeccable. The problem isn't with the restaurant. I looked around the room one more time, at my parents looking distressed, at Rebecca looking mortified and angry, at Kyle looking defensive, at my brother Marcus, who'd been silent this whole time, looking uncomfortable, at all the guests who'd witnessed this entire scene. Enjoy the rest of your dinner, I said. The food is exceptional and the service is wonderful. Mom and Dad, happy anniversary. I truly mean that. Rebecca, the bill is paid, so you don't need to worry about that. Though I won't be contributing to any future family events. Claire, thank you again. I walked out of that private dining room with my head held high, through the main restaurant, where diners had definitely heard something happening in the private room based on their curious glances. Out the front door to where my Uber was still waiting, Luis looked up when I got in. Everything okay? It is now, I said. Take me home. During the drive back to my condo, my phone started buzzing. Multiple calls, Rebecca, Kyle, my mother, my father. I declined them all. I didn't want to talk, not yet. I needed time to process what had just happened, what I'd just done. By the time I got home, I had 17 missed calls and 34 text messages. I poured myself a glass of wine, changed out of my $600 dress and into sweatpants and a t-shirt, sat on my couch in my beautiful Pacific Heights condo that I'd bought with my own money, and I read the messages. Mom, Lily, please call me. We need to talk about this. You can't just leave like that. Rebecca, I can't believe you did that. You humiliated me in front of everyone. How could you? Dad, your mother is very upset. Call us. Kyle, you made a scene at your parents' anniversary dinner. That was selfish and immature. Marcus, hey, I know tonight was weird. Call me when you can. More messages in the same vein. Angry messages. Hurt messages. Confused messages. No one apologizing. No one acknowledging what they'd done. just anger that I'd called attention to it. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop, started a new document, and I started writing down everything that had happened, every detail. The reservation I'd made, the deposit I'd paid, the conversation with Rebecca about sitting at the kids' table, the dinner itself, every interrupted course, every moment spent supervising children, the confrontation, everything. I documented it all, saved it, backed it up, because I'd learned from experience that when you speak up about being mistreated, people will try to rewrite history. They'll try to claim you're exaggerating, being dramatic, misremembering. So you need proof. Detailed, dated, documented proof of exactly what happened. The next morning, Sunday, I woke up to more messages, but these were different. From Marcus. Hey, I couldn't sleep last night thinking about what happened. You were right. The way they treated you was wrong. I should have said something. I'm sorry I didn't. Can we talk? From my college roommate Emma, who I was still close with. I just got a very interesting phone call from your mother asking me if you've been having problems lately. I told her I didn't know what she was talking about. What happened? From my cousin Sophia, who I hadn't seen in months. My mom, your Aunt Teresa, told me something happened at your parents' anniversary dinner. She heard about it from your mom. Want to talk? The story was spreading. Family gossip network in full effect. I texted Marcus back. Coffee later this week? Tuesday? He responded immediately. Yes. Name the time and place. I texted Emma. Long story. Can I call you later today? She sent back, absolutely. I'm here whenever you need. I texted Sophia. I'll tell you the whole story over coffee soon. But the short version is, I'm fine and I stood up for myself. Monday morning, I went to work like normal. I had cases to manage, clients to serve, deadlines to meet. My personal drama didn't change my professional responsibilities, but I was distracted. I kept checking my phone. I kept seeing more messages from family members. My Aunt Teresa. Your mother called me very upset about Saturday night. She said you caused a scene and embarrassed the family. I'd like to hear your side of the story. My Uncle Robert. Not sure what happened at the anniversary dinner, but your mother is very hurt. Family is important. Don't let pride damage relationships. More of the same. Everyone telling me I'd gone too far, that I'd been too dramatic, that I should apologize. No one asking what had happened made me react that way. Tuesday, I met Marcus for coffee at Blue Bottle on Fillmore. He was already there when I arrived, 2 coffees on the table. Got your usual, he said when I sat down. Oat milk latte. Thanks. We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, I'm sorry, for Saturday, for not saying anything, for letting them put you at the kids' table and not speaking up. Did you know they were going to do that? No. I mean, I knew there were kids coming and there was talk about a separate table for them, but I didn't know they were putting you there until we all sat down. And even then, I thought maybe you'd volunteered or something. I didn't volunteer. Rebecca told me I was sitting there, and when I objected, I was told I was being difficult. That's what I figured out later, after you left. After the whole revelation about you paying for the dinner, it all clicked. What did everyone say after I left? He took a long drink of his coffee. It was awkward. Really awkward. Mom started crying. Dad tried to smooth it over. Said we should just enjoy the rest of the dinner. Rebecca was furious. Kept saying you'd humiliated her. Kyle was defensive. Kept saying you'd blown things out of proportion. Nobody really knew what to say. Did anyone acknowledge that what they did was wrong? Not really. Not that night. Everyone was too shocked and uncomfortable. The rest of the dinner was tense. People left pretty quickly after dessert. Nobody lingered. Good. Lily, can I ask you something? Sure. Why didn't you tell anyone you'd made the reservation? If you'd said something earlier, this whole thing might have been avoided. Because I shouldn't have to announce that I'm paying for something to be treated with basic respect. I should be treated with respect regardless. The fact that I made the reservation shouldn't be the only reason I deserve to sit with the adults. He thought about that. You're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for saying that. Rebecca called me yesterday. She wanted me to talk to you, to convince you to apologize. Apologize for what? For making a scene. For embarrassing her. For airing family business in public. I'm not apologizing. I didn't think you would. I told her that. We talked for another hour. I told him the whole story. Every detail. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, You know what the worst part is? This isn't the first time. They've always treated you differently than Rebecca. I just never really noticed it before. What do you mean? Rebecca gets credit for everything. Gets celebrated for everything. Mom and Dad bend over backward to accommodate her schedule, her needs. You're just expected to figure things out on your own. I never really thought about it, because it was just how things were. But Saturday made me see it clearly. Yeah, I said. It's been that way for a long time. I'm sorry I didn't notice sooner. You notice now. That's what matters. Wednesday afternoon, I got an email from my mother. Not a text. An email, formal, carefully written. Dear Lily, I've had a few days to think about what happened on Saturday, and I need to address this with you directly. I understand you felt hurt about being asked to sit at the kids' table. That wasn't our intention. Rebecca was simply trying to manage a difficult situation with many children at an adult venue. However, the way you handled your feelings was inappropriate. You caused a scene at your father's and my anniversary dinner. You embarrassed your sister in front of her in-laws. You made our guests uncomfortable. You turned what should have been a beautiful celebration into a dramatic confrontation. I also want to address your claim about paying for the dinner. While I appreciate that you made the reservation and paid the deposit, Rebecca did all the work of planning and coordinating the event. She managed all the details. She's the one who put everything together. So while your financial contribution is appreciated, it's not fair to discount Rebecca's efforts. I think you owe your sister an apology. I think you owe your father and me an apology. And I think you need to seriously consider whether your pride is worth damaging your family relationships. Family is forever, Lily. Jobs and money come and go. But family is what matters. I hope you'll think about that. Love, Mom. I read that email 3 times. Each time I got angrier, because not once did she acknowledge what they'd done. Not once did she apologize for allowing me to be treated that way. Not once did she take responsibility for the situation. It was all about what I'd done wrong, how I'd embarrassed them, how I'd been inappropriate, how I needed to apologize. I didn't respond immediately. I needed time to craft a response that said what needed to be said. Thursday evening, after work, I sat down and wrote my response. I worked on it for 2 hours, revising and refining until it was exactly right. Mom, thank you for your email. I've given a lot of thought to what happened on Saturday and what you've written here, and I need to respond clearly. First, let me address the kids' table situation. You say it wasn't intended to hurt me, that Rebecca was managing a difficult situation. But intention doesn't negate impact. Regardless of Rebecca's intentions, the result was that I, a 34-year-old successful professional, was told to sit at a table with children under the age of 10 and supervise them instead of participating in the adult celebration. When I objected, I was told I was being difficult and unreasonable. That happened. That is what occurred. You can't dismiss that by saying it wasn't intended. Second, let me address the claim that I caused a scene. I didn't cause a scene. I stated facts. I clarified who had made the reservation after being treated as though my presence didn't matter. If the truth is embarrassing, that's because the situation was embarrassing. But I'm not responsible for protecting people from the consequences of their actions. Third, let me address your characterization of what Rebecca did versus what I did. You say Rebecca did all the work of planning and coordinating. Let me be specific about what that means. Rebecca sent a group text announcing the dinner. She told people when to show up. She made a few phone calls to confirm attendance. What Rebecca did not do: book the venue, pay the deposit, coordinate with the restaurant about room setup, confirm the menu options, provide credit card information, or handle any of the actual logistics of securing the private room. I did all of that. Without the reservation I made, there would have been no dinner. The venue would not have been available. There would have been no private room. So no, Mom, it's not fair to expect credit for my actual, tangible, financial contribution while Rebecca gets credit for sending text messages. Fourth, you say I owe apologies to Rebecca, to you, and to Dad. I disagree. I owe nothing to people who treated me poorly and then got upset when I pointed it out. What I deserve is an apology from the people who deemed me unworthy of sitting with adults at an event I paid for. Finally, you say family is forever, and I should consider whether pride is worth damaging family relationships. But here's what you're missing. I'm not damaging relationships out of pride. I'm setting boundaries because I deserve to be treated with respect. If my family can't treat me with basic respect, then the relationship is already damaged. Just quietly. I'm just making the damage visible. I love you and Dad. I always will. But I will not accept being treated as less than, even by family. Especially by family. If you want a relationship with me going forward, it needs to be one where I'm treated as an equal adult, not as free childcare or someone whose time and feelings are less important than everyone else's. The choice of what happens next is yours. Love, Lily. I read it through one final time, hit send, and felt an enormous sense of relief. The next few days were quiet. No response from my mother. No calls. No texts from anyone. I assumed they were angry, regrouping, figuring out their next move. Or maybe they decided I wasn't worth the effort. I was okay with any of those outcomes. Friday afternoon, I got a message from someone unexpected. Amanda, Kyle's sister, the one whose kids had been at the dinner. Hi, Lily. This is Amanda Chen. I got your number from Kyle. I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out. I wanted to say something about Saturday. I didn't know you'd been asked to supervise the kids. I thought you'd volunteered. When Kyle told me later what had actually happened, I was horrified. I would never have brought my kids if I'd known they were putting you in that position. You shouldn't have been treated that way. I'm sorry I didn't realize what was happening and didn't speak up. For what it's worth, I think you were right to call attention to how you were being treated. Sometimes family needs to be called out. Thank you for trying to handle my kids at dinner, even though you shouldn't have had to. I really appreciate it. Amanda. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I wrote back, Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for reaching out. This message means a lot to me. You have nothing to apologize for. You had a childcare situation and brought your kids to a family event. That's completely understandable. The problem wasn't your kids being there. The problem was the assumption that because I'm single and childless, I should automatically be the one to manage everyone's children. I hope your kids are doing well, and thank you for the kind words. Lily. She responded almost immediately. You're very gracious. And you're right about the assumption. I've noticed Kyle and Rebecca have some pretty outdated ideas about women without children. It's bothered me for a while, but I've stayed quiet because it's not my place. Maybe Saturday will make them think differently. Take care. That message made me feel better than I'd felt in days. Validation from an unexpected source. Someone who'd been there, who'd seen it, who understood. Saturday, 1 week after the anniversary dinner, I posted something on Facebook. I'd debated whether to say anything publicly, but I'd decided that staying silent was enabling the behavior, so I wrote a careful post. Reminder: adults without partners or children are still adults. Their time is not less valuable. Their presence at family events matters. Their feelings and needs deserve consideration. If you wouldn't ask a married person with children to sit at the kids' table at a formal event, don't ask your single sister, friend, or colleague. And if someone pays for an event you're attending, the very least they deserve is basic respect and consideration. Respect isn't about relationship status or parental status. It's about treating people like they matter. Always. I didn't mention the anniversary dinner specifically. Didn't tag anyone. Didn't include details. Just posted this general statement. Within an hour, it had 80 likes. Within 2 hours, 150 likes and 30 comments. Friends commenting with support. Acquaintances sharing their own stories of similar treatment. People thanking me for articulating something they'd felt but couldn't express. This is so important. I've felt this way at family events for years. Thank you for saying this. Single. Women are not free childcare. Adults are adults regardless of relationship, status. And then family members started commenting. My cousin Sophia, yes to all of this. I've felt this way too. My Aunt Teresa. Important reminder. Thank you for posting this. And Rebecca commented. Just 4 words. This is about me. I could have deleted her comment. But I left it up. Because yes, it was about her. And maybe she needed to sit with that. Sunday morning, I woke up to a text from my father. The first communication I'd had from him since the dinner. Lily, can you and I meet? Just the 2 of us? I'd like to talk. I thought about it for a long time before responding. Finally texted back, coffee, Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m., Blue Bottle on Fillmore. I'll be there. Tuesday arrived. I got to the coffee shop 10 minutes early, ordered my latte, sat at a corner table. My father arrived exactly at 2. He looked older than I remembered. Tired, like the past week had aged him. He ordered coffee, sat down across from me. We sat in silence for a moment. Thank you for meeting me, he finally said. Of course. Your mother and I have been talking a lot this past week. About what happened at the dinner, about how we've treated you over the years, about a lot of things. Okay. I want to start by apologizing, sincerely apologizing, for what happened at the dinner, for allowing you to be put at the kids' table, for not speaking up. For not checking on you? For not making sure you were included in the celebration the way you should have been? Thank you. I also want to apologize for how we've treated you generally. Your mother and I have favored Rebecca. We've accommodated her needs while expecting you to be flexible. We've celebrated her achievements while taking yours for granted. We've made you feel like you're less important because you don't have a husband and children. That was wrong. All of it. I felt tears prick my eyes. This was what I'd needed to hear. What I'd been waiting for. Why? I asked. Why did you treat me that way? He took a long breath. Honestly, because it was easier. Rebecca demands attention. She makes her needs known loudly. She gets upset when things don't go her way. You've always been more independent, more self-sufficient. You handle things on your own. So we took you for granted. We assumed you were fine because you never complained. I did complain. Multiple times over the years, and I was told I was being oversensitive or dramatic. You're right. We dismissed your feelings. We prioritized Rebecca's comfort over your legitimate concerns. That was wrong. It was. Can I ask you something? What? The reservation. You never mentioned you'd paid for it. If you'd told us, we would have treated you differently. Why didn't you say something? Because I shouldn't have had to. I should be treated with respect whether I'm paying or not. The fact that I made the reservation shouldn't be the only thing that makes me worthy of sitting with the adults. He nodded slowly. You're absolutely right. Dad, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you actually want a relationship with me? Or do you just want me to stop being upset so family gatherings are comfortable again? He looked at me directly. I want a relationship with you. A real one. Not one where you're the accommodating daughter who shows up and keeps quiet. I want to know you. Really know you. Your life, your work, your interests. I realized this week that I don't know very much about your actual life. I know you're a lawyer. I know you live in Pacific Heights. But I don't know what cases you're working on. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what makes you happy. And that's my failure as a father. It is, I said softly. Will you give me a chance to do better? To be better? No promises that it'll be perfect. But a genuine effort to treat you the way you deserve to be treated? I thought about it. On one condition. What? Rebecca needs to apologize. Actually apologize. Not just say sorry you were upset. She needs to acknowledge what she did and why it was wrong. I'll talk to her. And Mom needs to apologize too. That email she sent me was dismissive and defensive. She made it all about how I embarrassed the family instead of acknowledging how I was treated. I'll talk to her too. And going forward, my time and schedule need to be treated as equally important as Rebecca's. Not more important. Equally. If you can't do that, I'd rather have a distant but respectful relationship than a close one where I'm constantly deprioritized. That's fair. More than fair. We talked for another hour. He told me about the conversations he and my mother had been having. The things they'd realized about their parenting. The ways they'd failed me. It wasn't perfect. But it was honest. And that mattered. 2 weeks after the anniversary dinner, I got a phone call from Rebecca. I almost didn't answer, but I was curious what she'd say. Lily, she said when I answered. Her voice sounded strange, uncertain. Thanks for answering. I wasn't sure you would. What do you want, Rebecca? I want to apologize. Actually apologize. For putting you at the kids' table. For dismissing your objections. For taking credit for organizing a dinner I didn't actually organize. For treating you like you were less important than everyone else. For embarrassing you. For all of it. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about why I did those things. And I think it's because I've been competitive with you our whole lives. You're successful in a way I'm not. You have this impressive career. You're independent. You've built this life on your own terms. And instead of being proud of you, I felt threatened. So I found ways to diminish you. To make myself feel more successful by comparison. And that was wrong. Really deeply wrong. Why were you threatened? Because being a stay-at-home mom wasn't what I planned. I thought I'd have this amazing career too. But then I had kids, and Kyle's job took off, and it made sense for me to stay home. And I love my kids, I do. But sometimes I feel like I lost myself. Like I'm just Mom, not Rebecca. And when I see you living this full life, this successful, independent life, it makes me feel like I failed somehow. Rebecca, being a parent is valid. Being a stay-at-home mom is valid. You didn't fail. I know that intellectually, but I still felt jealous. And I took that out on you. I made you sit at the kids' table because some part of me wanted to put you in what I saw as my world. Taking care of kids, being responsible for kids, having your own needs come last. I wanted you to feel what I feel, and that was terrible. I see that now. Thank you for saying that. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately. I don't expect things to go back to normal, but I want you to know I'm going to work on this. I'm starting therapy next week. I need to figure out my own issues instead of making them your problem. That's good. Therapy helped me a lot when I was dealing with family dynamics. You went to therapy about family stuff? Yeah, for about 2 years. It helped me understand what was healthy to accept and what wasn't. It gave me the tools to set boundaries. I'm glad you did that, and I'm sorry you had to. We talked for a while longer. It wasn't a complete reconciliation. There was still hurt and distance, but it was a start, a real start. 3 months after the anniversary dinner, things had settled into a new normal. I saw my parents every few weeks. Coffee, lunch, sometimes dinner. They made an effort to ask about my work, my life, my interests. They stopped comparing me to Rebecca. They stopped making assumptions about my time being more flexible. My mother sent me an apology email, a real one this time, acknowledging specifically how she'd dismissed my feelings and prioritized Rebecca's comfort over my legitimate concerns. Rebecca and I were cordial. We texted occasionally. She sent me updates about her kids. I sent her articles about things she was interested in. We were rebuilding slowly. Kyle and I barely spoke, which was fine. I didn't need a relationship with him. Marcus and I had gotten closer. We made a point to have coffee every week or two. He'd started noticing other family dynamics that were unhealthy and started setting his own boundaries. 6 months after the dinner, I was having lunch with my friend Morgan from work, and she asked, "Whatever happened with that anniversary dinner situation? The one where your family put you at the kids' table?" "We're working through it," I said, slowly. I got apologies from most of the people involved. Boundaries have been set. Relationships are being rebuilt on healthier terms. How does that feel? Good. Scary sometimes. Like I'm always waiting for them to slip back into old patterns. But mostly good. Do you regret calling them out? Making that scene? Not even for a second. It needed to happen. They needed to be confronted with what they'd done. I needed to stand up for myself. If I'd stayed quiet, nothing would have changed. You're brave. I'm not brave. I just got tired of accepting treatment that made me feel small. 1 year after the anniversary dinner, my parents had their 41st anniversary. This time no one planned a surprise. My mother called me directly. "Lily, Dad, and I want to do something small for our anniversary. Just immediate family. Would you like to help me plan it?" "What did you have in mind? Maybe dinner at our house? Home-cooked? Casual? Just us? You, Rebecca, and Kyle and the kids, Marcus and Jen?" "That sounds nice. Would you and Rebecca want to coordinate together? Split the responsibilities?" "Sure, I'll call her." I called Rebecca. We planned together. I handled the main course and wine. She handled appetizers and dessert. Equal contribution, equal effort. The dinner was lovely. Warm, relaxed family. I sat at the main table, obviously. There was no kids' table. Rebecca's children sat at the main table with everyone else, behaving themselves reasonably well for kids their age. At one point during dinner, my mother stood up. "I want to say something. Thank you to Lily and Rebecca for putting together this beautiful meal. Thank you to all of you for being here. 41 years together, and I'm grateful for all of it. Including the hard years, including the lessons we've learned, including the growth we've done as a family." She looked at me. "Lily, I want to specifically thank you for teaching us something important last year. You taught us that we'd been taking you for granted, that we'd been treating you as less important, because you didn't fit our expectations of what your life should look like. When you stood up for yourself at our anniversary dinner, it was uncomfortable for all of us. It forced us to look at patterns we'd been ignoring, and we're better for it. So thank you for having the courage to set boundaries. Thank you for demanding the respect you deserved. You made this family better." I felt tears in my eyes. "Thanks, Mom." Rebecca stood up too. "Can I add something?" Everyone looked at her. "I want to say publicly what I've said to Lily privately. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for the kids' table, for taking credit for your work, for all of it. You deserved better. You've always deserved better. And I'm working on being a sister who gives you that." She raised her glass. "To Lily, who taught us all about boundaries and self-respect." Everyone raised their glasses. "To Lily." We clinked glasses, toasted. And I looked around that table, at my parents, my siblings, my extended family. and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt like I belonged, not because I'd changed, not because I'd compromised or accepted less, but because I'd refused to accept less, and eventually, they'd risen to meet me. 2 years after the anniversary dinner, I got a message from a stranger on Facebook, a woman named Rachel. "Hi Lily, I hope this message isn't weird. I saw a post you made 2 years ago about respecting adults without partners or children. It was shared in a group I'm in for single professional women. I wanted to reach out because your post changed my life. I was in a similar situation with my family, always being treated as free babysitting, having my time treated as less valuable, being expected to accommodate everyone else's schedule. I'd accepted it as normal. But your post made me realize it wasn't okay. I started setting boundaries. My family was upset at first, but I held firm. And eventually, things changed. They started respecting my time, stopped making assumptions, treated me like an adult. I just wanted to say thank you. Your courage to speak up gave me courage to do the same. You helped me more than you know." I read that message 3 times. Then I responded, "Rachel, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm so glad my post helped you. You deserve to be treated with respect, regardless of your relationship status. I'm proud of you for setting boundaries. That takes real courage. Keep standing up for yourself. You're worth it. Lily." We messaged back and forth for a while. She told me her story, similar to mine in many ways. I told her more of mine. By the end of the conversation, we'd connected and promised to stay in touch. Over the next year, I got several more messages like that. People who'd seen my post, who'd experienced similar treatment, who'd found the courage to set boundaries because I'd shared my story. Each message reminded me that what had happened at that anniversary dinner mattered. Not just for me, but for everyone who'd ever been made to feel less than because they didn't fit someone else's expectations. 3 years after the anniversary dinner, my life looked different. Better. I'd made a partner at my firm. I'd bought a bigger condo with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. I've traveled to Italy, Japan, and Australia. I'd deepened the friendships that mattered and let go of relationships that didn't serve me. I had a good relationship with my parents now. We had coffee every week. They asked about my work, my life, my goals. They stopped making assumptions and started listening. Rebecca and I had rebuilt something that approximated sisterhood. Not as close as we'd been before, but functional, respectful. We had coffee every month or so. Texted regularly. She was doing better, working through her issues in therapy, finding her identity beyond being a mother. Kyle and I were civil, polite. That was enough. Marcus and I were close. He'd learned from my experience, started setting his own boundaries with family. We supported each other. And when I thought back to that night at Atelier Crayons, sitting at the kids' table while everyone else celebrated, I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt grateful for the clarity that moment had given me, grateful for the courage it had sparked, grateful for the changes it had forced. That night had been the catalyst. The moment when I'd finally said enough, when I'd stopped accepting treatment that diminished me, when I'd chosen self-respect over family peace, and choosing myself had changed everything. 4 years after the anniversary dinner, my parents had their 44th anniversary. This time, I organized the celebration. I booked a private room at a beautiful restaurant, not Atelier Crayons, somewhere different, new memories. I coordinated with Rebecca, with Marcus. We planned together, contributed equally, respected each other's ideas. The dinner was perfect. Everyone sat at one table. Adults and older children together. No kids' table, no hierarchies, just family. At one point, Rebecca turned to me and said quietly, "Remember 4 years ago? The kids' table? I remember. I can't believe I did that to you. Looking back, I'm so ashamed. You apologized. You changed. That's what matters. Still, I'm sorry. I know. And I've forgiven you. Really forgiven you. Not just said it, but actually let it go. Thank you." We clinked glasses. And I realized something important. I'd gotten what I'd wanted all along. Not revenge, not vindication, just respect. Just to be seen and valued and treated like I mattered. The kids' table had been the breaking point. But it had also been the breaking through point. The moment when I'd finally stood up for myself. The moment when everything had changed. Today, 5 years after that anniversary dinner, I'm 39 years old. I'm a successful partner at my firm. I have a beautiful home. I have strong friendships. I have family relationships that are healthy and respectful. I have a life I've built on my own terms, without compromise, without apologizing for taking up space. And when people ask me about that night, about the anniversary dinner where I walked out and came back with the manager, I tell them the truth. It was the night I stopped accepting less than I deserved. The night I demanded respect. The night I chose myself. And that choice changed everything. Not immediately. Not perfectly. But permanently. The woman who was told she belonged at the kids' table learned that she belonged wherever she decided to be. And once she learned that lesson, no one could make her forget it again. That's the real ending. Not perfect reconciliation or complete healing. Just growth. Just change. Just a woman who learned to demand respect, and a family that eventually learned to give it. And a dinner table where everyone gets a seat at the main table. No exceptions. No kids' table for adults who don't fit expectations. Just respect, consideration, and the understanding that everyone matters. That's what I fought for. That's what I won. And it was worth every uncomfortable moment, every difficult conversation, every boundary set. It was all worth it, because I learned the most important lesson of all. I belong at the table. I've always belonged at the table, and anyone who tries to tell me otherwise isn't someone I need in my life. The kids' table was just the beginning. The real story is what happened after, when I learned to stand up for myself, when I learned that my worth wasn't determined by relationship status or parental status, when I learned that respect is non-negotiable. That's the story. That's what matters. And 5 years later, I'm still living it. Still standing up for myself. Still demanding respect. Still choosing myself every single day. And I wouldn't have it any other way.